The small transport ship moved quietly through the dark space near the neutral zone. Inside the cramped passenger area, 32 humans sat in silence. Most were families running from the war zones on the outer colonies. They carried small bags with their most important things. Children slept against their parents while adults stared out the small windows at the stars. Lieutenant Commander Kim Tae-ho sat in the back corner of the ship. He looked like any other tired passenger. His clothes were simple civilian ones, a worn jacket and dark pants. Nothing showed that he was one of Earth's most deadly soldiers. His short black hair was messy. His face showed no emotion, but his dark eyes watched everything. Tae-ho had just finished a mission that took him deep into enemy space. For 6 months he had worked alone behind enemy lines. He had gathered information about alien military bases. He had sabotaged weapons factories. He had done things that would stay classified forever. Now he was going home. The transport ship was not military. It was a civilian rescue vessel picking up refugees. Tae-ho had been ordered to blend in and catch a ride back to human space. No one on the ship knew who he really was. They thought he was just another refugee like them. The ship's captain was an old man named Park Young-sik. He had been running rescue missions for 2 years. He knew the dangers but kept coming back to save more people. His small crew worked hard to keep the old ship running. "We should reach human space in 12 hours, Captain Park announced over the ship's speakers. "Everyone stay calm. We are almost home." Some passengers smiled for the first time in days. Others held their children closer. Tae-ho did not react. He had learned long ago not to celebrate until the mission was truly over. That was when the alarm started. Red lights flashed throughout the ship. The captain's voice came over the speakers again. This time he sounded worried. "Unknown ships approaching. All passengers remain calm and stay in your seats." Through the windows, Tae-ho could see them. 3 large warships with strange designs. They were not human ships. The hulls were dark metal with curved edges. Blue lights ran along their sides like glowing veins. These were ships of the Galactic Dominion. The Dominion ruled most of this part of the galaxy. They believed humans were weak and primitive. They thought Earth's people were nothing more than clever animals. For the past 3 years, tensions had been growing between humanity and the Dominion. "Transport vessel, you have violated Dominion space," a cold voice spoke over the radio. The words were translated by the ship's computer but still sounded alien. "Prepare to be boarded. Do not resist or you will be destroyed." Captain Park tried to argue. "We are in neutral space. We have done nothing wrong. These are just refugees." Silence. Comply or face destruction. The transport ship was tiny compared to the Dominion warships. Captain Park had no choice. He stopped the engines and waited. Tae-ho watched as the largest warship moved closer. A docking tube extended from its side and attached to their ship with a loud clang. The sound made some passengers cry. Parents tried to comfort their children. Through his training, Tae-ho had studied many alien species. He knew about the Dominion military. Their soldiers were from different worlds but all served the same empire. Most were bigger and stronger than humans. They had better weapons and armor. But Tae-ho also knew their weaknesses. Heavy footsteps echoed through the docking tube. The ship's main door opened with a hiss. Tall figures in dark armor entered the passenger area. Their faces were hidden behind helmets with glowing visors. The leader was clearly a sectar. Tae-ho could tell by the way he moved. Sectar were reptilian creatures from a desert world. They were 7 feet tall with natural armor-like skin. They valued strength and despised weakness. "I am Captain Veltaran of the Dominion Fleet," the alien leader announced. His voice was deep and threatening. "You humans have entered restricted space. You will all be arrested and questioned." Captain Park stepped forward bravely. "Please, these are just civilians. They have done nothing wrong. Let them go." Veltaran looked down at the old human captain. "Humans always lie. You will all face judgment." The other Dominion soldiers began separating the passengers. They divided them into groups. Families were kept together but moved to different areas of the ship. The soldiers were rough but not violent. They seemed to view the humans as nothing more than cargo. One of the soldiers, a creature with blue-gray skin and 4 arms, approached Tae-ho. This was a Thylorian known for their efficiency and cold logic. "You, stand up," the Thylorian ordered. Tae-ho stood slowly. He kept his movements calm and controlled. Nothing about him suggested he was dangerous. "Occupation?" the alien asked while scanning Tae-ho with a small device. "Mechanic." Tejo replied in a quiet voice. It was a cover story he had used many times. The Thylorian looked at the scanner's results. It showed basic human biology. Heart rate normal. No weapons detected. No obvious cybernetic enhancements. Just another weak human civilian. Move to Group 3, the alien said with boredom. As Tejo walked to where he was directed, he observed everything. The positions of the guards, their weapons and armor, how they moved and communicated. The layout of their equipment. Every detail was stored in his memory. Captain Velteran walked among the human prisoners. His scaled face showed disgust. Look at them, he said to his soldiers. Small, soft, pathetic creatures. How these beings ever left their homeworld amazes me. Some of the Dominion soldiers laughed. They had heard stories about human weakness. How humans needed machines to survive in space. How they could barely fight and had no natural weapons or armor. The females and young will go to processing station Beta, Veltoran ordered. The males will be questioned about military activities. Some may be useful as labor. One soldier pointed at Tejo and a few other men. What about these? They look healthy enough for work detail. Simple laborers, Velteran said dismissively. Put them with the others. They will learn to serve the Dominion properly. Tejo said nothing. He let them believe what they wanted to believe. In his training, he had learned that being underestimated was often the greatest advantage a warrior could have. The Dominion soldiers finished their work quickly. They had done this many times before. To them, capturing human refugees was routine. They loaded their prisoners onto the warship and prepared to leave. As the transport ship was abandoned in space, Tejo found himself in a holding cell with 12 other human men. The cell was clean but clearly designed to hold prisoners. The walls were smooth metal. The floor was cold. A single light provided dim illumination. The other men were scared. They whispered among themselves about what might happen. Some had families who had been taken to different parts of the ship, all worried about their futures. Tejo sat quietly in the corner. He appeared calm, but his mind was working. He was analyzing the situation, planning, preparing. The Dominion had made their first mistake by capturing him. They would soon learn that not all humans were as helpless as they believed. The warship turned toward Dominion space, carrying its human cargo toward an uncertain fate. In the holding cell, Tejo began the mental preparation that every Navy SEAL learned. The mission had changed, but it was not over. Captain Velteran had captured what he thought was a simple human mechanic. In reality, he had just imprisoned one of Earth's most dangerous weapons. The consequences of that mistake would soon become clear. The Dominion warship traveled for 3 days through hyperspace. Tejo and the other human prisoners were kept in holding cells with basic food and water. The guards rarely spoke to them. When they did, it was only to give orders or make cruel comments about human weakness. On the 3rd day, the ship dropped out of hyperspace. Through the small window in his cell, Tejo could see their destination. It was a massive fortress world called Kepler 7. The planet's surface was covered with dark metal structures. Towers reached high into the atmosphere. Energy shields created a glowing dome around the main complex. Welcome to your new home, one of the guards said with a laugh. He was a Krillian, a species known for their brutality. They had thick gray skin and sharp teeth. Many enter Kepler 7, few ever leave. The prison facility was enormous. It housed the galaxy's most dangerous criminals from dozens of different worlds. The Dominion used it to hold political prisoners, war criminals, and anyone else they wanted to disappear forever. The prisoners were transported down to the planet's surface in small shuttles. Tejo was separated from the other humans from his ship. Each prisoner was processed individually. They were scanned, photographed, and given identification numbers. The processing guard was a Thylorian with cold blue eyes. He looked at Tejo's file on his computer screen. Kim Tejo, age 28. Occupation listed as mechanic, captured in neutral space violation. I was just trying to get home, Tejo said quietly. Home is wherever the Dominion decides, the guard replied. You are now prisoner number 4471. You will be assigned to cell block 7 with the other humans. Tejo was given a gray prison uniform and basic supplies. A guard escorted him through long corridors lined with energy barriers. Behind each barrier were cells holding various alien species. Some prisoners watched him pass with curious eyes. Others ignored him completely. Cell Block 7 was designed for human prisoners. The gravity was set to Earth normal. The temperature was comfortable for human biology. But it was still clearly a prison. The walls were smooth metal. Security cameras watched every corner. Tae-ho was assigned to cell 47B. When the energy barrier deactivated, he stepped inside to find he was not alone. Another human sat on one of the two metal beds reading from a small electronic tablet. The man looked up as Tae-ho entered. He was older, maybe 40, with gray hair and intelligent eyes. His face showed the wear of someone who had been imprisoned for a long time. "New arrival," the man said with a slight smile. "I am Park Dong-soo. I have been your welcoming committee for 3 years now." "Kim Tae-ho," he replied, sitting on the empty bed. "What brought you to this wonderful vacation resort?" Dong-soo asked. His humor seemed to be how he dealt with their situation. "Transport ship violation. You?" "I was an engineer on a deep space mining station. The Dominion claimed we were stealing resources from their territory. They arrested everyone." Dong-soo's smile faded. "Most of the others are gone now. Transferred to labor camps or worse." Over the following days, Dong-soo explained how the prison worked. There were 12 cell blocks, each designed for different species. The guards came from various Dominion worlds. They enjoyed showing their power over the prisoners. "The warden is the worst," Dong-soo warned. "Zekthol is a Vortak. They are naturally aggressive. He sees prisoners as entertainment." Tae-ho learned that the prison had a brutal hierarchy. Different alien gangs controlled various sections. They fought each other constantly for territory and resources. The guards allowed this because it kept the prisoners from uniting against them. "The Krillians control most of the lower levels," Dong-soo explained. "They are strong but not very smart. The Sectar run the upper sections. They think they are superior to everyone else." "What about the humans?" Tae-ho asked. "We try to stay out of the way. We are not strong enough to fight the bigger species. Not tough enough to survive their games. Most humans just try to serve their sentences quietly." But Tae-ho noticed that some humans had found ways to survive. There was Kim Min-ho, a former soldier who had earned respect by fixing things for other prisoners. Lee Sang-woo worked in the kitchen and traded food for protection. Dr. Han Ji-min treated injuries and illnesses for anyone who asked. During his first week, Tae-ho observed everything. He mapped the prison layout in his mind. He noted guard schedules and patrol routes. He identified the strongest prisoners and the weakest. He watched how different species interacted with each other. The daily routine was simple but harsh. Prisoners woke at dawn for a meal of nutritional paste. Then they were assigned work details or exercise periods. The rest of the day was spent in their cells or common areas under heavy guard supervision. Tae-ho was assigned to maintenance work. This gave him access to different parts of the prison. He repaired ventilation systems and cleaned processing equipment. The guards thought he was just another harmless human doing simple labor, but maintenance work also let him study the prison's systems. He learned about the power grid and security networks. He discovered weak points in the structure, information that might be useful someday. In the evenings, prisoners gathered in the common areas of their cell blocks. This was when the social dynamics became clear. The stronger species dominated conversations and decided what to watch on the entertainment screens. Humans usually sat together in small groups. "You are different," Dong-soo observed one evening. "Most new prisoners are scared or angry. You just watch and listen." "I am learning," Tae-ho replied simply. "Learning what?" "How things work here." Dong-soo studied his cellmate carefully. "You were not really a mechanic, were you?" Tae-ho met his eyes but said nothing. "I was an engineer for 15 years, Dong-soo continued. "I know how mechanics think and act. You move differently. You notice things others miss. Your hands have calluses from weapons training, not tools." "Does it matter?" Tae-ho asked. "Maybe. The other humans look up to me because I have been here longest, but they need hope more than experience. They need someone who can give them a reason to believe things might change." That night, as Dong-soo slept, Tae-ho stared at the ceiling of their cell. He thought about his mission training, about survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. The principles still applied, even here. The Dominion had made their second mistake. They had put him in a prison designed to break spirits and destroy hope. But Tae-ho had been trained never to surrender, never to give up, never to accept defeat. From his bed, he could hear the sounds of the prison around them. Guards walking their routes, prisoners talking quietly in their cells, the hum of machines keeping the facility running. Somewhere in this fortress, other humans were suffering. They believed they were helpless against their alien captors. They thought their situation was hopeless. Tejo closed his eyes and began planning. The Dominion would soon learn that capturing a Navy SEAL was very different from capturing an ordinary human. They just did not know it yet. 2 weeks passed quietly in Cell Block 7. Tejo continued his maintenance work and observed the prison's routines. He spoke little but listened to everything. The other human prisoners began to notice him, though they did not know why he seemed different. The trouble started in the common area on a Thursday evening. Tejo sat with Dongsu and 3 other humans, eating their dinner of nutritional paste and synthetic protein. The meal was bland but provided basic nutrition to keep prisoners alive and working. At the center of the room, a group of Krillian prisoners dominated the largest table. They were big creatures with thick gray skin and powerful muscles. Their leader was named Morgeth. He was almost 8 feet tall and weighed over 400 pounds. His arms were covered with scars from many fights. "Look at the little humans," Morgeth said loudly, pointing at Tejo's table. His voice was deep and threatening. "They sit together like frightened children." Some of the other Krillians laughed. They enjoyed intimidating weaker prisoners. It made them feel powerful in a place where they had little control over their lives. "Ignore them," Dongsu whispered. "They will get bored and find someone else to bother." But Morgeth was not finished. He stood up and walked over to the human table. His massive shadow fell over them like a dark cloud. The other humans immediately looked down at their food, hoping to avoid his attention. "You," Morgeth said, pointing directly at Tejo. "New human. You think you are better than the others?" Tejo looked up calmly. His expression showed no fear or anger. "I think nothing about it. You do not bow your head like the rest. You look me in the eyes. That shows disrespect." "I meant no disrespect," Tejo replied evenly. Morgeth leaned down until his face was close to Tejo's. His breath smelled like rotting meat. "In my world, creatures that show disrespect get taught lessons. Hard lessons." The common room had become quiet. Other prisoners from different species watched the confrontation. Some looked interested in seeing a fight. Others seemed bored by what they thought would be a quick beating of a weak human. "Stand up, little human," Morgeth commanded. Tejo remained seated. "I do not want trouble." "You already have trouble." Morgeth grabbed the front of Tejo's prison uniform and lifted him to his feet. The Krillian's strength was impressive. He could have crushed Tejo's throat with one hand, but Tejo did not resist. He let himself be pulled up without fighting back. To the watching prisoners, he looked helpless. Just another weak human about to be humiliated by a stronger alien. "Tomorrow night fighting pits," Morgeth announced loudly. "This human needs to learn his place in the order of things." The fighting pits were an illegal entertainment that the guards allowed. Prisoners would fight each other while others bet on the outcomes. It was brutal and often deadly. Most matches were between similar species or weight classes. A human fighting a Krillian was almost suicide. Morgeth released Tejo and returned to his table. His followers congratulated him on setting up what they thought would be an easy victory. The other species in the room began discussing betting odds. No one gave the human any chance of winning. That night in their cell, Dongsu was worried. "You cannot fight him. Morgeth has killed 3 prisoners in the pits. He enjoys causing pain." "I know," Tejo replied calmly. "Then why did you not apologize? Why did you look him in the eyes?" "Because backing down would only delay the problem. Bullies always come back for more." Dongsu paced around their small cell. "This is not about pride. This is about survival. You are a good man, but you are not a fighter like these creatures." Tejo lay on his bed and stared at the ceiling. "We will see." Word of the fight spread quickly through the prison. By the next evening, it seemed like every prisoner knew about the match. The guards were also excited. They rarely saw such an uneven contest. Warden Zekthul himself came to watch. He was a Vortok, a species known for their love of violence. They had natural armor plating and razor-sharp claws. Zekthul was especially cruel even for his species. "This should be entertaining," the warden said to his guards. "The human will provide a few minutes of amusement before he is broken." The fighting pit was located in the lower level of the prison. It was a circular area surrounded by energy barriers. Seating areas allowed hundreds of prisoners to watch the matches. Bright lights illuminated the fighting space from above. Tejo entered the pit wearing simple exercise clothes. He looked small compared to the massive space around him. The crowd of alien prisoners jeered and laughed. Many had already placed bets on how quickly he would be defeated. Morgeth entered from the opposite side. He wore no shirt, showing off his muscular body and battle scars. He raised his arms to acknowledge the cheers from his fellow Krillians. He was confident and relaxed, like a predator playing with wounded prey. "Begin when ready," announced the guard supervising the match. Morgeth smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "I will make this quick, little human. You will not suffer long." The Krillian charged forward with surprising speed for his size. His plan was simple: grab the human, crush him, and end the fight before it really started. It was a tactic that had worked many times before, but Teho was not where Morgeth expected him to be. At the last second, Teho stepped aside with fluid precision. Morgeth's momentum carried him past his target and into the pit wall. The crowd's laughter changed to surprised murmurs. "Stay still and fight like a warrior," Morgeth growled, turning to face Teho again. This time the Krillian approached more carefully. He kept his guard up and tried to corner Teho against the pit wall. His reach was much longer than the humans. His strength was overwhelming. But Teho moved like water. Every punch and grab missed by inches. He seemed to know exactly where Morgeth would strike before the alien moved. The crowd grew quieter as they realized this was not going as expected. Teho had been studying Krillian anatomy during his weeks in prison. He knew their pressure points and weak spots. He understood how their joints worked and where they were vulnerable. When Morgeth overextended on a powerful swing, Teho struck. His hand hit a nerve cluster just below the Krillian's armpit. Morgeth's entire right arm went numb and dropped to his side. "What did you do?" Morgeth demanded, confused by the sudden loss of feeling. Teho did not answer. He continued moving, staying just out of reach while the Krillian tried to understand what was happening. The crowd was now completely silent. Morgeth tried to compensate for his useless arm by using more aggressive attacks with his left hand. But this made him even more unbalanced. Teho exploited every mistake with precise strikes to nerve centers and joints. Within 5 minutes, the massive Krillian was nearly helpless. His left leg was barely supporting his weight. His remaining good arm was weakened by strikes to pressure points. He stumbled around the pit, trying desperately to land one solid hit. Teho could have ended the fight at any time. He could have struck killing blows to the throat or spine. Instead, he chose restraint. He wanted to win, but not to murder. The final move came when Morgeth made one last desperate charge. Teho used the alien's own momentum against him, redirecting his energy and sending him crashing to the floor. Morgeth tried to get up, but his body would not respond properly. "I yield," the Krillian said quietly. The pit was completely silent. Hundreds of alien prisoners stared in shock at what they had just witnessed. A small human had systematically defeated one of the prison's most feared fighters without taking a single serious hit. Warden Zek Thul leaned forward in his seat. His expression had changed from amusement to serious interest. "Fascinating," he said quietly. As Teho walked out of the pit, the crowd remained silent. They were trying to understand what they had seen. This was not lucky or accidental. This was skill beyond anything they thought humans possessed. In cell block 7, the other human prisoners looked at Teho with new eyes. Dongsu smiled for the first time since Teho had arrived. "Now I know why you were so calm," Dongsu said quietly. "You were never really a mechanic, were you?" "No," Teho replied simply. "I was not." The Dominion had made their third mistake. They thought the fight would demonstrate human weakness to the other prisoners. Instead, it had revealed that humans were far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. News of Teho's victory spread through the prison like wildfire. By the next morning, every prisoner and guard had heard about the human who defeated Morgeth without breaking a sweat. The Krillian gang leader remained in the medical bay, still confused about what had happened to him. In the prison hierarchy, strength commanded respect. Teho's display of skill had changed how other prisoners viewed him. Aliens who had ignored him before now watched him carefully when he walked through the corridors. But not everyone was impressed. Some gang leaders saw his victory as a threat to the established order. Others thought it was just luck that could not be repeated. They whispered among themselves about testing the human again. 3 days after the fight, a new prisoner approached Teho during his work shift. She was a human woman in her 30s with intelligent eyes and careful movements. Her name was Dr. Li Jian, and she had been captured 6 months earlier. "Need to talk?" she said quietly while they cleaned the Prison's water recycling systems, Ji-yun, had been a biochemist on a research station before her arrest. The Dominion claimed she had been developing biological weapons, but she insisted she was working on medical treatments. Whatever the truth, she had been sentenced to life imprisonment. "I have been mapping this place for months," she whispered as they worked. "Every corridor, every room, every security system. I know where they keep the other human prisoners." Taeho continued his cleaning while listening. "Why tell me this?" "Because you are the first person I have met who might actually do something with the information." She glanced around to make sure no guards were watching. "There are experiments happening in the lower levels. Medical testing on human subjects. Things that violate every galactic treaty." This was new information. Taeho had suspected the prison was more than just a place to hold criminals, but he had not known about illegal experiments. "What kind of experiments?" he asked. "Pain tolerance studies, biological adaptation research. They are trying to understand human limits." Ji-yun's voice was filled with anger. 12 humans have died so far. The guards told their families they were killed trying to escape. That evening, Taeho shared this information with Dongsu in their cell. The older engineer was shocked but not completely surprised. "I wondered why so many humans disappeared," Dongsu said. "The guards always had explanations, but they never made sense." "We need more information," Taeho said. "And we need allies." "Allies? Among these criminals and murderers?" "Even criminals have codes of honor. Some of them hate the Dominion as much as we do." Over the following days, Taeho began carefully recruiting. He did not approach gang leaders or obvious troublemakers. Instead, he looked for prisoners who had been wronged by the system and had skills that might be useful. His first recruit was Choi Woo-jin, a former human marine who had been imprisoned for refusing to follow an order to attack civilian targets. Woo-jin was younger than Taeho but had solid military training. He had been keeping his head down and serving his time quietly. "You were military," Taeho said during an exercise period. It was not a question. Woo-jin looked around nervously. "I was. But I'm just trying to survive my sentence." "What if I told you survival might require more than keeping quiet?" "I would say you sound like you are planning something dangerous." Taeho studied the younger man carefully. "The question is whether you still remember your oath to protect human lives." Woo-jin was quiet for a long time. Finally, he nodded. "What do you need?" The second recruit was unexpected. Kethvar was a Sectar warrior who had been dishonored by his own people. He had refused to execute prisoners during a campaign against a rebel world. His punishment was life imprisonment for showing weakness. Kethvar approached Taeho after another prisoner tried to challenge the human to a fight. The challenger was a Thylorian, enforcer named Vexkol, who thought he could restore alien superiority by defeating the human, who had beaten Morgeth. "Your technique against the Krillian was impressive," Kethvar said. "You fought with honor but showed mercy. These are qualities I respect." "Why does a Sectar care about honor?" Taeho asked. "Because honor is why I am here." Kethvar's reptilian features showed something that might have been sadness. "I chose honor over orders just as you chose skill over brutality." The relationship between them was unusual. Sectar were traditionally enemies of humanity, but Kethvar had been cast out by his own people for showing the same values that humans prized. In the strange environment of the prison, this made them natural allies. Their small group began meeting in secret during work periods and exercise time. Ji-yun provided intelligence about the prison's layout and security systems. Woo-jin shared his knowledge of military tactics and weapons. Kethvar knew about Dominion procedures and weak points in their operations, but their planning was interrupted by an announcement from Warden Zek Thule. The message played over every speaker in the prison complex. "Attention all prisoners. Due to recent disturbances in the fighting pits, new rules are now in effect. Any prisoner who shows excessive skill in combat will face additional challenges to prove their abilities." Taeho realized the announcement was directed at him. The warden had decided that one victory was not enough to prove anything. He wanted to see if the human could repeat his performance. "You are being targeted," Kethvar warned. "Vortok enjoy testing warriors. Sekthul will not be satisfied until he sees you broken or dead." That afternoon, guards came to escort Taeho to the warden's office. The room was large and decorated with weapons from various worlds. Trophies from Zekthul's military career covered the walls. The warden was even more intimidating up close. He was nearly 9 feet tall with natural armor plating and razor-sharp claws. His eyes were yellow with vertical pupils like a predator. "Sit down, human," Zekthul commanded. Teho took the chair across from the massive desk. He kept his expression neutral and his posture relaxed. "Your performance against the Krillian was interesting," the warden continued. "But one victory proves nothing. Perhaps you were simply lucky." "Perhaps," Teho agreed. "I have decided to test this theory. Tomorrow night you will fight again, this time against 3 opponents instead of 1. Teho nodded calmly. "If that is what you wish." Zekthul leaned forward. "You seem very calm for someone facing almost certain death. Death comes to everyone eventually. Fear does not change that." The warden studied him with new interest. "You are different from other humans I have known. Most beg for mercy or try to bargain. You simply accept. Acceptance and surrender are different things. Indeed they are." Zekthul smiled, showing his sharp teeth. This should be very entertaining. When Teho returned to his cell, he found Dongsu pacing nervously. Word had already spread about the upcoming fight. 3 against 1 is suicide, Dongsu said. "Even if you could beat them individually, together they will overwhelm you." "Maybe," Teho replied. "Or maybe the warden will learn something he does not expect." That night, Jiyan managed to visit their cell during a shift change. She brought more disturbing news from the lower levels. "They are accelerating the experiments," she whispered. 2 more humans were taken yesterday. If something is going to happen, it needs to happen soon. Teho looked at his small group of allies, a scientist, an engineer, a disgraced Marine, and a dishonored alien warrior. Not exactly an army, but perhaps it was enough to start something bigger. "After tomorrow's fight, things are going to change," he told them, "one way or another." The next evening, as he prepared to face 3 opponents in the fighting pit, Teho thought about his training. About never giving up. About turning disadvantages into advantages. The Dominion thought they were testing his limits. They had no idea they were about to discover what those limits really were. And more importantly, they were about to learn that some humans were much more dangerous than they could possibly imagine. The crowd gathered for the 3-on-1 fight was larger than any previous match. Word had spread throughout the entire prison complex. Even prisoners from other cell blocks had been given permission to attend. Warden Zekthul wanted maximum audience for what he expected to be the humans' defeat. Teho entered the pit calmly, showing no signs of nervousness or fear. The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some aliens jeered and called for his blood. Others watched silently, curious to see if his first victory had been luck or skill. His opponents entered from 3 different gates. The first was Grixtal, a Vortak warrior with natural armor and deadly claws. The second was Nexrun, a cybernetically enhanced Zephyrian with metal implants that doubled his speed and strength. The third was Cordex, a Brutarian enforcer whose species was known for their incredible durability and resistance to pain. Each opponent alone would have been a serious challenge for any fighter. Together, they represented the most dangerous combination of speed, strength, and defense the prison could offer. 3 champions against 1 human, the supervising guard announced. "Fight until one side yields or cannot continue." Warden Zekthul watched from his elevated seat, clearly expecting to see Teho overwhelmed and broken within minutes. The 3 opponents spread out to surround Teho. They had obviously planned their strategy in advance. Nexrun would use his enhanced speed to attack from behind, while Grixtal and Cordex came from the front and side. But their plan assumed Teho would fight like a normal prisoner, trying to match strength with strength. They expected him to be aggressive or defensive in predictable ways. Instead, Teho did something unexpected. He started talking. "Impressive coordination," he said calmly as they circled him. "You have worked together before." The comment seemed harmless, but it planted a seed of doubt. In multi-opponent fights, paranoia about teammates was common. Each fighter wanted to survive, and sometimes that meant letting others take the biggest risks. Nexrun made the first move, charging from behind with his enhanced speed. But Teho had been tracking the cyborg's position through peripheral vision and subtle sound cues. At the last second, he stepped aside and Nexrun crashed into Cordex instead. The crowd gasped. They had expected a brutal beating, not tactical maneuvering. "Careful, Nexrun," Teho said. "Your allies might think you are trying to weaken them for easier victories." It was psychological warfare, designed to break down their teamwork. Grixtal snarled and attacked with his claws extended. But Teho used the vortex momentum to spin him toward Cordex. Again, the opponents ended up hitting each other instead of their target. "You are making them angry," Dongsu whispered from the crowd. He was worried but also amazed by what he was seeing. Teho continued his strategy of using their strength against them. When all three attacked at once, he would drop low or leap aside at precisely the right moment. Their attacks would collide with each other instead of finding their target. But the tactic could not work forever. Eventually, the three opponents adapted their strategy. They began attacking in sequence instead of simultaneously. Nexrun would strike, then immediately retreat while Grixtal followed up. Then Cordex would finish the combination. This forced Teho to reveal more of his true abilities. He began using advanced martial arts techniques that most aliens had never seen. Joint locks that used leverage instead of strength. Pressure point strikes that could disable much larger opponents. Movement patterns that seemed to defy physics. When Nexrun's next attack came, Teho caught the cyborg's enhanced arm and used a joint lock to send him flying across the pit. The crowd made sounds of shock. They had seen the human throw an opponent who weighed twice as much and had mechanical strength enhancements. "Impossible," someone in the crowd whispered. Grixtal roared and unleashed a flurry of claw attacks, but Teho moved like flowing water, avoiding every strike by inches. When the Vortak overextended, Teho struck a nerve cluster at the base of his neck. Grixtal's entire body went rigid and he collapsed to the ground, conscious but unable to move. That left Cordex. The Brutarian was known for his ability to absorb tremendous amounts of damage. His species could keep fighting even with broken bones and severe injuries. "You cannot hurt me, human," Cordex growled. "My people feel no pain." "Pain is not the only way to stop someone," Teho replied. He began systematically attacking the Brutarian's balance and mobility. Strikes to the inner ear affected Cordex's coordination. Pressure point hits disrupted his nervous system's ability to control his muscles properly. Within 3 minutes, the seemingly indestructible Brutarian was stumbling around the pit like a drunk, unable to maintain his balance or coordinate his movements. "I yield," Cordex finally said, falling to his knees. The pit fell completely silent. Teho stood in the center, barely breathing hard while 3 of the prison's most dangerous fighters lay defeated around him. He had not just won, he had made it look easy. Warden Zek Thul stood up slowly in his observation seat. His expression had changed from amusement to serious concern. "Bring him to my office immediately." As guards escorted Teho out of the pit, the crowd remained silent. They were trying to process what they had witnessed. This was not the work of a lucky human. This was the demonstration of skills that surpassed anything they had seen from any species. In the warden's office, Zek Thul paced back and forth like a caged predator. His yellow eyes studied Teho with new intensity. "Who are you really?" the warden demanded. "Kim Teho, prisoner 4471. Do not insult my intelligence. That performance was not the work of a mechanic or ordinary soldier. You have training that exceeds our military specialists." Teho remained silent. Zek Thul activated his computer and began searching through classified Dominion files. "There have been reports from our border worlds. Stories about human soldiers with impossible skills. Ghosts who appear behind enemy lines and disappear without trace." He found what he was looking for and turned the screen toward Teho. It showed a military report about mysterious attacks on Dominion facilities. Weapons depots destroyed. Communication centers sabotaged. High-ranking officers assassinated in their sleep. The reports describe humans who move like shadows and fight like demons. Special forces that are trained beyond anything we believed possible. Zek Thul's voice was tense. "You are one of them." Still, Teho said nothing. "It does not matter," the warden continued. "You are here now, in my prison, under my control." He smiled coldly. "Tomorrow night you will face our ultimate champion. Griselth has never been defeated. He is a cyborg warrior enhanced with the best technology from 5 different species, if that is what you wish. Oh, but this time will be different. No more fighting pit contests. You will face Griselth in the arena of champions, a fight to the death with weapons allowed. No mercy. No surrender." Zek Thul leaned across his desk. "I want to see exactly how dangerous you humans really are." When Teho returned to his cell, he found his allies waiting with worried expressions. Word of the death match had already spread through the prison. "Griselth has killed 17 opponents," Wujin said quietly. "He is not just enhanced, he is rebuilt. More machine than living creature now." Ji-Yan had managed to access medical files about the champion. His skeleton is reinforced titanium. His muscles have been replaced with synthetic fibers 3 times stronger than natural tissue. He has targeting systems built into his eyes and reaction enhancers in his nervous system. Kethvar looked troubled. Among my people, Griselth is legend. He was captured during the Outer Rim Wars after single-handedly destroying an entire battalion. The Dominion decided he was too valuable to execute, so they made him their ultimate gladiator. He fights with traditional weapons, Dongsu added, reading from a datapad. Swords, spears, axes, but in his hands they become impossibly deadly. Taeho listened to all the information without showing concern. What does the arena of champions look like? Larger than the fighting pit, Woojin explained. Multiple levels with obstacles and weapon racks. The audience surrounds it completely. There are cameras broadcasting to the entire Dominion territory. Broadcasting? The warden has decided to make this a public spectacle, Ji-Yan said with anger in her voice. He wants the entire galaxy to see a human die horribly. It is meant to prove that humans are inferior beings who only got lucky in previous encounters. That night, Taeho sat quietly in his cell while Dongsu tried to find solutions. The older engineer was frantically reading through prison regulations and galactic laws, looking for any way to prevent the deathmatch. There has to be something, Dongsu muttered. Some rule or procedure we can use. There is no escape through legal means, Taeho said calmly. The Dominion makes their own laws here. Then how can you be so calm? Tomorrow you face certain death. Taeho looked at his cellmate and friend. Because fear will not help me win, and I intend to win. Against Griselth? He is practically invincible. No one is invincible. Everyone has weaknesses. Even machines break if you know where to apply pressure. The next day passed slowly. Word of the death match had spread beyond the prison. Dominion officials from across the sector were arriving to watch. News broadcasts were promoting it as the ultimate test of human capabilities against superior alien technology. In his cell, Taeho spent the victory over Griselth changed everything in the prison. Within hours, word had spread through every cell block. The human who had seemed so ordinary was actually something far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. But the victory also put Taeho in greater danger. Warden Zechthal was furious about the public humiliation. The broadcast had been seen across Dominion space, and High Command was asking uncomfortable questions about how a simple human prisoner had defeated their ultimate champion. You have embarrassed the entire Dominion military, Zechthal said during their private meeting after the match. This cannot be allowed to stand. The fight was your idea, Taeho replied calmly. Yes, and now I must fix my mistake. The warden's yellow eyes glowed with rage. Tomorrow you will be transferred to the maximum security wing. No more fights. No more public displays. You will spend the rest of your life in solitary confinement. Taeho said nothing, but he understood the real message. Solitary confinement was often a death sentence. Prisoners who went there rarely came back. They would claim he died of illness or had an accident. The embarrassing human would simply disappear. That night in their cell, Dongsu was more worried than ever. Solitary confinement is the end. No one survives there long. The guards make sure of that. I know, Taeho said quietly. Then what do we do? There has to be something. Taeho looked at his friend and made a decision. It was time to reveal the truth about his real mission and capabilities. I need to tell you something, he began. I was not really captured by accident. I volunteered for this assignment. Dongsu stared at him in confusion. What do you mean? Earth military intelligence knew about this prison, about the illegal experiments on human subjects. They needed someone inside to gather evidence and stop it. Taeho's voice was steady. I am Lieutenant Commander Kim Taeho, Navy SEALs. My mission was to infiltrate this facility and rescue human prisoners. You came here on purpose? Dongsu could barely believe what he was hearing. The transport ship was not random either. Earth intelligence arranged for me to be on it, knowing the Dominion would intercept and bring me here. But that means... It means I have been planning an escape since the day I arrived. And tomorrow night, before they transfer me to solitary, we are leaving. The next day, Taeho gathered his allies during work periods and exercise time. Ji-Yan, Woojin, and Kethvar listened as he revealed his true identity and mission. Tonight we rescue every human prisoner in this facility. He told them, but we need help from non-human prisoners too. People who hate the Dominion as much as we do. How many allies do you think we can recruit? Wu Jin asked. More than you might expect. Half the prisoners here are political cases or victims of Dominion oppression. They want freedom as much as we do. Ji Yan had been working on something during her months of imprisonment. I have been slowly mapping the entire facility's computer network. I think I can disable the security systems if I can get to the main control room. What about weapons? Kethvar asked practically. The armory is heavily guarded, but there are security stations throughout the prison. Each one has basic weapons for the guards. Tae-ho had memorized every detail of the prison layout. We take them one by one. And then what? Dong-su asked. Even if we escape the prison, we are still on a Dominion fortress world. The prison has a shuttle bay with transport ships. We take one and get to space. From there, we can reach human territory. That evening, as the prison prepared for night shift, Tae-ho began implementing his plan. The first step was creating a distraction that would draw guards away from critical areas. In the common room of cell block 7, he started an argument with another prisoner. It was loud enough to attract attention, but not serious enough to warrant major intervention. While guards dealt with the disturbance, Ji-yeon slipped away toward the control room. Meanwhile, Woo Jin and Kethvar approached prisoners in other cell blocks. They whispered to anyone who might be willing to fight for their freedom. The response was better than expected. Dozens of prisoners from various species agreed to help. The real operation began at midnight during the shift change. This was when security was weakest, with guards focused on handing over duties rather than watching prisoners. Ji-yeon reached the main control room using maintenance tunnels that Tae-ho had mapped during his work assignments. Her biochemistry background included significant computer training, and she quickly began accessing the prison's systems. Security grid is down, she whispered through a communication device they had improvised from prison workshop materials. You have maybe 15 minutes before they notice. Tae-ho moved like a shadow through the corridors. His first target was Security Station Alpha, which controlled the human cell blocks. 2 guards were on duty, focused on monitoring screens rather than watching for threats. The fight was over in seconds. Tae-ho's SEAL training made him lethal in close-quarters combat. He disabled both guards silently and secured their weapons and access codes. Phase 1 complete, he reported quietly. Woo Jin and Kethvar had reached Security Station Beta simultaneously. The young Marine used his training to neutralize the guards while the dishonored Sectar warrior secured additional weapons and equipment. Throughout the prison, cell doors began opening as Ji-yeon systematically disabled the containment systems. Prisoners who had been locked up for years suddenly found themselves free to move. But freedom meant nothing without organization. Tae-ho had anticipated this and prepared accordingly. Using the prison's communication system, he broadcast instructions to all prisoners. This is Kim Tae-ho, prisoner 4471. The security systems are disabled. This is your chance for freedom. Follow the green emergency lights to reach the shuttle bay. Do not fight among yourselves. Save your strength for the guards. The response was immediate. Hundreds of prisoners from dozens of species began moving through the corridors. Some were confused, others were excited, but all were desperate for escape. Warden Zekthul was awakened by emergency alarms throughout the facility. His first reaction was disbelief. How is this possible? Our security systems are the most advanced in the sector. Sir, all containment fields are down, a guard reported over the communication system. Prisoners are moving freely through the facility. Lock down everything. Deploy all security forces. Kill anyone who resists. But the guards were outnumbered 10-1 by prisoners who had nothing left to lose. Years of anger and resentment exploded into violence as aliens who had been oppressed by the Dominion finally had a chance to fight back. Tae-ho led a strike team toward the shuttle bay, but he made one important detour first. The lower levels where Ji-yeon had discovered the illegal medical experiments. We are not leaving anyone behind, he told his team. They found 12 human prisoners in various stages of medical experimentation. Some were barely conscious from drugs. Others were too weak to walk. All were suffering from treatments that violated every rule of civilized warfare. Can you move? Tae-ho asked a woman named Han Sora who had been imprisoned for 6 months. I think so, she replied weakly. Are we really escaping? Yes, but I need your help. You were a communications specialist before. Despite her condition, Sora nodded. If it means getting out of here, I can do anything. The group reached the shuttle bay as alarms continued sounding throughout the prison. 3 transport ships were docked, but they were heavily guarded by Dominion security forces. 20 guards. Advanced weapons, defensive positions, Wu Jin reported after observing the situation. This is where we find out how good our alien allies really are, Taeho said. Kethvar had recruited a diverse group of prisoners from various species. They might have been criminals and outcasts, but they all shared one thing: hatred of the Dominion that had imprisoned them. The battle for the shuttle bay was fierce, but brief. The guards had better weapons and training, but they were vastly outnumbered by desperate prisoners who fought with nothing to lose. Taeho led from the front, using tactics that his alien allies had never seen. He moved like smoke, striking from unexpected angles and using the environment to neutralize superior firepower. Within 10 minutes, the shuttle bay was secure, but their victory was temporary. Reinforcements were coming and escape required speed. Sora, I need you to operate the communications system on that transport ship, Taeho ordered. Contact Earth Command and transmit everything we know about this facility. While Sora worked on communications, Ji-Yun began downloading data from the prison's computers. Evidence of the illegal experiments, prisoner records, and intelligence about Dominion military operations. We have company, Kethvar warned. Heavy footsteps echoed through the corridors leading to the shuttle bay. Warden Zekthul was leading a full security team to stop their escape. Get everyone on the ships, Taeho commanded. I will buy you time. You cannot face them alone, Wu Jin protested. I am not alone. Taeho gestured to the diverse group of alien prisoners who had chosen to follow him. We are all leaving together. The final confrontation took place at the entrance to the shuttle bay. Zekthul led 30 heavily armed guards against Taeho's group of escaped prisoners. Surrender now, and I promise you quick deaths, the warden called out. Counteroffer, Taeho replied. Surrender now, and we promise not to tell the galaxy about your illegal experiments. The